Hi, and welcome to your virtual talk on the Year 12 options, A-level options. So this is the talk for what we call economics and business. It's actually an economics A-level, but we call it economics and business because the unit that we choose, the exam board that we've chosen, actually has quite a lot of business studies in it as well. So it's not as full on as a traditional economics A-level might be. So this talk is just to kind of talk you through what we cover in the course, different ways you might learn, and kind of career opportunities and where it might take you in the future. So if we start with just lots of different images here about how important economics is and the impact it has on everything that we do, the impact it has on all the things that businesses do. Obviously, it's got a huge impact on politics as well, and we're experiencing a lot of that now with all the COVID stuff and the decisions that are being made and the spending plans and the furlough patterns and everything else like that as well. But it also has lots of decisions, impacts on decisions we make as individuals as well. So this is just kind of some things, just kind of highlights that to you. So some of the pictures we've got here, so you've got all the junk food at the top there. Now these are called demerit goods. These are products that are bad for us. They don't help us. They make us unhealthy, and that has a negative impact on the economy. And so then we look at, well, what should the government restrict our access to that? Should they encourage us to eat less of that? Is that too much of a nanny state? Should we have free choice? What's the kind of impacts around that? We also look, obviously there's Boris Johnson there, and in terms of politics and how economics informs the politics that we might have, how different political parties will follow different particular economic policies, and what impact that might actually have on businesses and individuals and groups of people in society as well. We also do a lot of work on globalization and global economics. So we've got China and India in particular as two economies that we actually look at in a lot of depth. We also look at Africa as a continent and kind of the growth of Africa as consumers, and the impacts of foreign aid and whether it's effective and whether it works or not. Should we do it? Is there better ways? Linked into that, we look at poverty. We look at poverty from a UK point of view, but also from a global point of view, and the impact trade has on poverty and rising income and different things that we can do around that. We also look at there's the newspaper article there from the Lehman Brothers collapse. So this was 2008 with the financial crisis, which plunged the world into a recession. And for the UK, it plunged us into 10 years of austerity and cutbacks. What we also, so that's a whole unit we study, like why did that happen, how did that happen, what were the effects of that, what led up to that actually happening. And actually the groundworks that were laid in the 1980s when restrictions around banks and their behaviour was lifted in order to try and encourage more freedom in the market, but actually potentially had negative effects further on. We also look at multinationals and the role multinationals play, negatively and positively. So we've got some pollution pictures there as well. We also look at it from a business point of view. So we look at profits for firms, we look at how those are calculated, we look at individual things such as productivity and efficiency and competition and pricing decisions, branding, the importance of that, and kind of what all those different things mean. So that's just a little picture collage just to show you some of the different things that we cover and how we can relate it to all kind of world events that are happening now, that have happened in the past, and trying to make it kind of as real as possible. So it's one of the most kind of real subjects you could perhaps study in that sense. So what do we do? So we study what businesses do, how businesses behave, but more importantly as well, why they behave in that particular way. We look at how the economy is impacted by political decisions, by business decisions, and what the consequences of those are on individuals, on groups in society, on businesses, and on governments. So just a few kind of points here like that we might look at, that we might try and find an answer to. So, the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, richest man in the world. How did that happen? How can that happen? How do we have billionaires? And what does that actually mean? Should Amazon pay more tax in the UK? They make all this money here, they pay very little tax. How do they get away with that? Why is that legal? Is there ethical questions around what they should do with that? Burberry, very traditional British design label, moved all their production to China. Why? And is that the right thing to do? We've got massive health problems in this country with obesity, as have other countries around the world as well. How does that affect the economy? Because it does. And therefore, should the government actually be interfering in that? Does that then become too much interference? What's the right thing to do? We look at ethical questions. So tobacco companies have lost huge sales in the UK as we've had more laws and restrictions around what you can and can't do and how you advertise and how you can brand. they go to countries in Asia and developing countries, and they target people there because they haven't got the laws and legislations. You know, why are they doing that? What's more important, profits or ethics? So you might look at that. Linked into that, multinationals, you know, they do bring lots of good things to where they go, but also they bring lots of problems as well from an environmental perspective, from an ethical perspective in terms of workers. So we might look at things like that as well. 0 hours contracts, this is a big thing as well. You know, that we've got a massive increase in 0 hours contracts being used in businesses. Is that acceptable? Is that the right thing to do? The financial crash I've already mentioned. Increases in food bank usage. We've got increases in poverty in the UK. Why is that? We're a very wealthy country, 6th wealthiest country in the world. Why have we got a poverty problem? What are the measures that can be used to fix this? How effective are they? Brexit. It's been going on for a long time now. This has been on my PowerPoint for the last 4 years. So we are Brexiting, so it's all Brexit there. But, you know, what deal are we going to have? What impact is that going to have on the economy as well? So we're looking at all these kind of real events. We're adding context to all the theory that we might look at to try and get some answers to some of these questions. So the course is studying the theory and applying it to real and current business situations. So we use lots of news articles and news events. We encourage students to be really aware of current affairs, and everything is case study based. Everything, including the exams, it has to be linked to the case studies. They're all real case studies. So it could be about country, it could be about business, and thinking about how this particular situation will have an impact on this and what the theory tells us should happen. 100% exam based, so no coursework, and 3 exams are sat at the end of A2. They're each 2 hours long. The final paper is what we call a synoptic paper, so it covers all the theory, and that is based on a pre-release case study. So we basically get a topic given to us in November that students then have to research, and that is the final question. So the course is based around 4 themes. Each theme explores a particular area or element of businesses or economics. So the aims of the course are to understand the impacts and the effects that are caused by businesses, how businesses operate, but also to develop an interest and enthusiasm for the study of economics, and use inquiring, critical, thoughtful approach. So every essay that students write has to include balance. You can't just say, oh, I think this is the right thing to do. You've got to say, well, look, there's this that happens, but on the other hand, this happens, or this is important to these businesses, but not important to these businesses. And why is that? So we're encouraging them to kind of get a balanced view and to argue kind of scientifically, really, about what effects something might have. So how do we learn? So we use the news a lot. We see how the theory comes to life every day. We do quite a lot of group work, quite a lot of presentation work, which I know puts some people off, but it's a really important skill to practice. Problem solving, lots of research-based stuff, because we're finding out, you know, what's the current GDP in India or China, and what's happened over trends over time, and what might this happen, and let's find examples of this. In a normal non-COVID time, we do quite a lot of extracurricular stuff, activities and opportunities, so entering lots of competitions. We do a London visit in normal times. So obviously we don't know what's going to happen in the summer of next year, but hopefully we might be able to bring it all back. So these are just some images there. So we've got some of our competitions that we've entered. That was at Plymouth University, and we had a group of students who entered the International Chartered Accountancy for England and Wales competition, and actually got to the national finals for that. So that's a picture of them there. There's all students in the Houses of Parliament. Went to London. We also went to the Nigerian embassy. We also visit various other kind of financial institutions, Bank of England, places like that as well, to kind of add a bit more context to the theory. So that we have got those opportunities in non-COVID times. So why is it a good subject to take? So basically you're introduced to international business. That's a really good kind of background to work in or manage business in an international context, which is increasingly important. It's a global world. Most businesses, even in the UK, will have some element of importing or exporting or trade. And we've had students go on to do international relations and work in that kind of area as well. You get lots of different career choices. There's loads of things you can go into with economics as an A-level, and then if you follow it through to degree, there's loads of business degrees, and you can specialise in things like marketing or accounting or finance or whatever. But you can also do economics degrees as well, which have got really high graduate employment rates and graduate earnings rates as well. It's one of the highest degrees you can get. it's really interesting. I mean, I'm a bit biased, obviously, but everything that's happening, everything that you're seeing in the news, everything that people are talking about, we can relate that to business theory or economics theory, and we can understand how that's actually being played out in the real world. Understanding what's happening as well, so not just knowing about it, but understanding why it's happening. Why is there refugees? Why are people escaping these places? What kind of role do different governments play in that? Political aspects of war, the reasons why we still have austerity, why have we had that, why do we have food banks, why has Brexit happened, and what are the effects of this going to be, and actually being able to kind of understand why these things happen and what the effects of these might be. It can help in employment, going to further education, starting your own business, or just actually understanding kind of current affairs and politics and things like that as well. It's really useful for that one. We also do a lot of work on skills, which are useful in lots of other subjects and in lots of different things that you might do. So the research skills, problem solving, critical analysis, evaluation, risk taking, presentations and public speaking from the competitions, etc., which are obviously all skills that can be applied to lots of different industries and subjects. So lots of different places you can go to, as I've already mentioned. Lots of universities report that economics graduates have the highest earnings among all graduates. There's lots of studies that say that. Nationally, economics graduates have the second highest earnings. It also has one of the highest graduate employment rates. So if you do an economics degree, which obviously this is a stepping stone too, then it gives you really good career opportunities, really good employment opportunities, because there's lots of different things you can work in. You can work as consultancy roles for governments, you can work as consultancy roles for councils, you can work in consultancy roles for businesses, you can also obviously focus on accounting. You work at the Office of National Statistics, loads and loads of newspapers and kind of editing from that point of view. So over the news, over the last few weeks and months of COVID and Brexit and what's happening in America, a lot of the people that are commenting on that are the economics editors. And so there's loads of different things you can go into. You can also, if that's not what you wanted to do, there's apprenticeships. So we've had lots of students who go on to accountancy apprenticeships and employment apprenticeships in that way. Working in employment with an economics A-level is kind of going to benefit you as well. So because of the skills you developed, the numeracy skills, the analysis skills, your communication skills, and actually knowledge of kind of what's happening as well. So these were obviously 2019 results, not using 2020 because slightly different results. Obviously, they didn't sit an exam. So 21% of our students got an A grade, 37% of the students received A or B grades, and 32% of students actually got higher than their target grade. So we have good results on this course. That for students who are interested in the topic, that you can do really well, because you can develop your knowledge really easily from following events that are going on, but getting involved in it, taking an interest in it. And actually what you'll find with economics is it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So you learn all these different bits of theory, and then actually you realise that they're all interconnected, and when this happens it affects this, and that affects this, and that affects this. And having that understanding and that interest in that and what's happening in the world, not just in the UK, we know we're looking all over the world, is something that's really interesting. And actually, if you get into it, you can do really, really well on the course. So this is all in the booklet, obviously, as well, so I won't spend ages on this. But we have 4 themes. The first theme is focusing on businesses, really. So we look at entrepreneurial aspects, setting up businesses, finance, marketing. We look at some basic economic stuff as well, so demand and supply, the banking structure, the finance structure we have. Theme 2 looks at the impact the economy has on firms. We look at competition, the digital economy, which has become really important, so the rise of online sales and actually using the internet to operate businesses now, and viral marketing and all that kind of stuff. Globalization, we look at developing, emerging and developed economies, and what's the difference between those and what's happening in those, and what we might see in those countries. We look at international trade, we look at trade in blocks, we look at barriers to trade, and the economic cycle as well, so recessions and booms and how that happens and what the effects might be. Unemployment, all that sort of stuff as well. Theme 3 is kind of globalization, basically. So we're looking at the international economic environment, so the role of the EU, trade, again, role of multinationals, the impacts and ethics of multinationals, can we control multinationals, the effects of globalization, inequality, poverty, global wages, that kind of stuff for theme 3. And then theme 4 is Making Markets Work, which focuses a bit more on economic stuff. So we look at government regulation, we're looking at social benefits and costs of those things, products that are good for us, bad for us, what effects that has, the role the Bank of England plays, the global financial crisis as well in that one. And the way that the exams work is theme 1 and 4 is sat in one paper, that's paper 1. Theme 2 and 3 is paper 2, and then paper 3 is all of those together. So that's just studies there, and paper 3 is also a pre-release case study. Obviously, lots of you, I know it's hard at the moment to kind of find teachers to talk to, but hopefully lots of you in year 11 who have me at the moment for business studies might be thinking of this, and obviously you can ask me questions in school and in lessons, and obviously email as well if anyone wants to find out a little bit more about it. So thank you for listening, and hopefully see you soon. Bye.